All right, welcome everyone. Hello,
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 hello.
hello, hello. Um, we have a little something we're going to share at the end. So we were wondering, hi Tony. Um, we have a little something we're going to share at the end. So we were wondering if you wouldn't mind if there's any like privacy things that you're worried about. We promise we won't come find you. If you could tell us where you're viewing from. This is, we want to see where everybody is because I think it would be also nice for people to know, like, oh my God, you're in Ohio and so am I. Like, let's get together kind of thing. Because this is part of what we're trying to do here is build this community. But then also, like I said at the end, Artem and I have like a little something to share. So we're just curious um, where people are. And like I said, we will share that at the end. Artem hates when I talk a lot, but I have to talk a little bit in the beginning here. So today we're going to be talking about leashes and the walk because we all have to do it. We have to get our dogs out to the bathroom. I remember like one of the questions Brandon always asks, what's as fascinating in his consultation is, where do you live? An apartment, a condo, or a house? Because that really has a big impact in the strategy, when we're rehabbing. So I always thought that was interesting, something I didn't ask in the beginning. And find great value in now that I travel a lot because recently I was in somebody's apartment and it's definitely different. It's tight quarters, which because people live in flats and things. Um,
Yeah.
so the biggest thing Artem and I go through every day morally is why we don't tell you exactly what to do. And we completely, honestly, with all of our hearts, sympathize with the problems you have. But in good conscience, we can't tell you how to fix your problem with no context or context on the relationship that you have with your dog or the environment it lives in. And I know that there's a lot of people that do that, and I also get a lot of calls with people that are still experiencing those same problems with those quick how-to videos and questions on YouTube that people do. And for long-term success, which is what we all want, we have to understand your individual situation. And we say this all the time that every dog is unique, every environment is unique, every relationship is unique, and I find in my experience that people will say this, professionals, rescues, owners, but then we go about doing the same exact thing. So, you'll find a YouTube channel that'll say, like, every dog is different, but then you look at every single dog and they all have a pinch collar on, they all have an e-collar on, they're all getting, manipulated with food. If every dog is different, then how come the strategy for everyone is the same? So, we really, in good conscience, are aware um, of that. We're not sitting here trying to pull like a bait and switch on everybody and say, like, oh, we're going to tell you how to fix your problems, but we're never going to say anything. This is something we struggle with. It's not, we don't take it lightly. So just so you know, we're talking about that with the walk today. We know a lot of people have, struggles on the walk. Um, I know this is extreme, Artem, and I know, I can get a little intense, but I honestly think it's animal abuse if you are trying to get your dog to change when the environment is responsible for the learned behavior. So I put a collar on my dog, I add pain, I add pressure, I try to make you change without understanding why the dog has the problem in the first place. Why do I have this problem in the first place? One of our mutual friend Teresa, I can't remember if she's tuned in. If you could say who that monk was, but Teresa always says, most people try to solve their problem with never asking, why do I have this problem in the first place? And that's a very, very powerful thing. So, from our experience, um, having a dog is not about magic tips and tricks. It's about self awareness. It's about understanding what I do in my daily life and how my dog is showing me that. And focusing directly on the problem usually shines a spotlight on that. And we try to be a little bit more sneaky and try to figure out the environment instead of, my dog has a problem on a leash. Well, let's take him out for a walk. That's not the solution. Um, so these 12 episodes that we've made before today, they are not just to listen to once and then move on. They are, every single one of them for us is very, very important and strategic in the way we live with our dogs. And if you want the same things that we want, if you want the same things that other people like us want, these are very and very important things. And you will see just by changing the environment how many other behaviors that you struggle with slowly either lose intensity or go away. And I really, really encourage, and Artem really encourages you to not just listen to it once, listen to it multiple times. You know, we both do that all the time with Brandon stuff. There's something that just clicks every once in a while because you're in a different space, and that's really, really important. So we just wanted to start off with that, and it's important to really focus on what you represent with your dog, and before you take that walk. So, you know, Artem, what did you say? You had a client the other day. You said they were saying, I get my dog to listen, and then you asked them, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. My dog is not listening to me.
Yeah.
No, not potential client. She said, my dog is not listening to me and actually growling at her while eating food. So I asked her, what do you do to make that dog listen to you? And she said, I love her, pet her, play with her, having fun with her. And she actually have huge dog, huge shepherd dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like bigger than Tibetan Mastiff. Bigger than, yeah. So it should be reasons, yeah, for the dog to behave and feel in a certain way around you.
Yeah.
So, and the walk is not something different. Like it's still, I regularly saying that on my consultations. It's still you going out with your dog. Still you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you should, if you have problems on walk, you should find out who you are for your dog emotionally, in terms of hierarchy and things like that.
Yeah. Well put, my friend. Well put. So, all right, we're going to start it off. There is a phrase I hear a lot, and I figured I would just mention it to you and see what comes to your brain, Artem. Surprise. So we've all heard it: exercise, discipline, affection. You think that's the natural order for dogs?
Not really.
Yeah.
If, you know, if we're taking it directly, like, oh, I should do this, that, and that, like step-by-step recommendation, yeah? Of course, they need some kind of exercise, some type of affection, and of course, a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
But when I'll talk about myself. When I when I heard it for the first time, I take it the way it been said, and I try to exercise dogs physically, but it's mostly have zero impact on mental side. It's just tired dog, that's all.
Yeah.
With still intentions, still emotional struggles, with the same attitude, with the same relationships with human.
Yeah.
So it's way bigger than just that.
Yeah.
And what you can add about it?
Well, I think, you know, like we were talking before, I think without discipline, the exercise is going to be a nightmare. Right? When you're out in the world, when your dog is having to see people, see dogs, deal with the environment, which is way more stimulating than your living room, if your dog doesn't understand what you don't like, you're going to have a lot of problems. And it, you know, you had said this once before to me. I can't remember if it was in a live feed or one of our private conversations. You said, you know, if I'm a bad husband, going to the gym isn't going to change that. And it sounds ridiculous, but it is that simple. Physical going to the gym is not going to make me better at math. It's not going to. There's the physical and the mental are a team together, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
The physicalness doesn't change the mental. And as Brandon says, if you have a dog with an emotional problem and you're doing physical things, you're just going to make a faster, stronger asshole. He's going to be able to jump.
yeah,
He's going to be able to jump on you more. He's going to be able to get out of the house more. When you're trying to, get them to do something, they're going to be faster to get around the house. So exercise obviously is important. Traveling, getting out is important. But I think discipline and having your dog understand what you represent helps the exercise. And I'm not saying it's, 33, 33, 33%. It's they don't need to be totally equally balanced. What you have to figure out is your relationship right now, where is it out of balance? And for most people it's exercise 10% because either the dog is a nightmare, they do it at 3 a.m. There's a zero discipline and tons of affection. Or people think they're disciplining, but they're dominating, and then there's tons of affection. And then that leads to exercise problems. And so, I see lots of people that will see this exercise discipline affection and throw backpacks on their dog, start putting them on the treadmill, doing all of these physical activities, running them on the bike and rollerblading, and I still can't see them walk the dog down the street. They can't get their dog to stop charging the front door.
yeah,
A tired dog is just tired. Yeah, and
yeah. We actually talked about it in, I guess, previous episodes.
yeah. And one of the things I remember Brandon said this to a client once. It was so funny. He said, "When you're tired, are you always happy?" No. So your dog is the same way. Just because he's tired doesn't mean he's happy, right? He could be still thinking about things that aren't helpful to the group. So you know, a fulfilled dog is happy. You're happier when you can take your dog to do things. It doesn't matter because they're sleeping on the floor. And the brain is the most energy draining organ. So don't worry about taking him out on the bike, because if you're running your dog on the bike and his ears are up and his eyes are forward, all you're doing is enhancing what he already wants to do, which is feel bold, be a predator. So I figured we would just start, with that real quick. So Artem, when you go into clients' homes, what does the leash represent to the dogs?
A lot of times it's a lot of excitement.
Mm,
Just switch uh, emotional, mental state immediately like that. Like boom, and big emotional explosion appears in a dog.
yeah,
I saw dogs who, it's not often, but I saw dogs who don't want to deal with that. Like they hiding and don't want to go outside or being on leash.
yeah,
Uh, and when leash is on, it's also for a lot of dogs, it's like a competition because they're trying to fulfill their needs and they just physically restricted and connected to another body, to the human. So they competing, not sometimes even not because they want to compete, but they have to because they are dogs and they need to do certain things because
genius.
they feel to do it,
That is
feel
genius.
like they want to do it.
I've never thought about it that way, Artem. Yeah, because then you look at the
Me
dogs that
too.
like do
Me too.
because then you look at the dogs that do agility and things, and they're always figuring out how to get around. So the leash in itself can create that competition, and then if you do those
Yes.
competitive games, then you get a dog that the leash represents competition. That is absolutely genius. And we're going to talk about later on where
It's all coffee, It's just, I had my coffee, a
coffee.
lot of
Yeah,
coffee before.
telling
It's
you.
just coffee.
Oh man, it's genius. So one of the things was there anything else that you were sharing, or are you just going to drop that truth bomb?
And I want to go back a little bit when
Mhm.
you've been talking about physical and discipline. Um, is just pumped in my head in one, not in one, but in many videos with Gabor Mate. He's saying that problem of our society, and of course he's talking about humans, that we separating body from the mind.
Yep.
Same with dogs. Like we need to understand how all of that working together, not just separating. Boom, exercise. Then boom, here with discipline.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's all happening in a one moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And good discipline is affection. It's when you're when
Of
you when
course,
you're a teenager and your kid, you're doing that because you love them. You're not telling them no because you just
you
want to be
hate
me.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's an important part. So some of the other things we had talked about in prep was, for me, a lot of it's why I can do certain things and you can do certain things and other professionals can do certain things with a dog when they have them, the owner can't, because the leash represents exclusion. It represents frustration, and it represents excitement, and it represents a physical barrier, and that's not understood mentally. So I'm just thinking of a client that I had a while ago, and we were doing something on the leash, and the dog didn't have the same reaction. But it's also a dog that comes to daycare. So when she sees a dog on the leash with me, she's not thinking exclusion. She's not thinking, oh shit, I can't meet that dog. She's thinking, oh, with this guy, I get to meet dogs all the time. So I don't feel unfulfilled. I just can't meet this dog right now. And that's okay because he says it's okay. So
And you just explained what we said previously. It's all about who you are for your dog, not only in that moment, but in general.
yeah,
And you just explained it on example.
yeah, yeah. It's those are very excitement, aggression are very closely related. You see that a lot when you see dogs playing. They get excited, and then the next thing that can go is that aggression. So when you have a dog that you're saying, "Oh my God, do you want to go take a walk, Fluffy?" And then that is classical conditioning. It's cueing an unconscious an arousal in the dog that they can't control. They pair it with the leash and the front door, and then you go out, and then you wonder why your dog is more intense. So it can make the frustration and the exclusion more intense by just having that leash represent the excitement. We talked about that with certain tools before. When I used to do bite work with my Malinois, when she would see the harness, she would shake. But I never took her out for a walk on a harness. Right? It would be an absolute nightmare because I've conditioned her, classically conditioned an arousal in her to to know I want more intensity. And then when she was on the leash, she was more thoughtful. And the harness is for drive building. So we have to look at what we're conditioning in our dogs, and then understanding that that is classical conditioning. Classical conditioning isn't just the clicker. It's not just drooling when the dog hears food. It's the things we do. If you take your dog only to the groomer and only to the vet in the car, every time you go in the car, the dog is not going to be happy. He's going to be like, oh, geez, shaking, trying to get out of there because he knows this is the only time we do that, and this is my response to that. Um,
And let's clarify another thing.
sure.
So, if we're talking about the walk today, and most people walk dogs on leash and having problems when their dogs on leash. So, what is the leash for the dogs? It's something unnatural, yeah,
Yes, that was our. Mm-hmm.
something very unnatural. They feel very restricted. They cannot move the way they feel. Like I want to sniff that booms and leash is not enough. I want to see that dog boom and leash not enough. I want to go away from this dog or that man or that sound and leash is not enough. So it's actually itself it's creating a lot of problems.
Yeah, yeah. You said it. It's not natural, and people.
Yeah.
The more people don't do natural things with their dog, which we'll share, some ways to kind of help this at the end, you're gonna get
Yeah.
this pulling and barking and growling and excitement because they're not able to understand this man-made device and why it's constricting how I feel. When I shared that experience before, when I turn around and tell my dog, we're not meeting that dog, it's not the leash. If she was off leash, she would feel the same way. Okay, we're just staying here. For over there,
Yeah.
there's landmines. The leash is the law, and it's not to me, like a question I get, Artem, a lot is people will say, well, how do you teach the leash? Do you use leash pressure? Do you use all of these things? And my answer always is no. And if I was doing obedience and there was, yes, I understand leash pressure and there, yes, I get it. The way you layer it with an e-collar. Yep. Get it. Understand it. Been there, done that. But it's not what I do now because the leash isn't how I want to communicate. Emotion is how I want to communicate. Understanding is how I want to communicate. So we have to really understand, it's a great point, Artem, how unnatural this tool is. And it always makes me laugh when I see people try to take their 8-week-old puppy out for a walk on a leash and then they expect them to understand, like, this is what we're doing. We're going out for a walk. And who gives a shit if you want to smell that bush right now? We're going. And we're supposed to understand how, this, you didn't come programmed to understand the leash. Come on, man. So it really lacks their ability to make choices. And you had said also, I like this, leashes are like jail.
Yeah.
Right? Does your dog...
Yeah. If there is no connection between two minds, this is like a jail. Like nobody's sitting in jail because they want to. Nobody.
Yeah. Like you had said, does the dog choose to be near you, or is it only the leash that's killing? When you walk, and I'm not picking on anybody, we all are doing the best we can with the information we have at the time. And I am so compassionate to that. I've been doing this long enough to realize I didn't know, and I still don't know a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're wrong for doing these things, but I'm just saying these are the kind of things I see, is when you're walking and you start to see the death wrap right around the hand, right? That's showing me that you don't believe if that leash was there, the dog would the dog be there? And the answer is no. I have to use this, and that's where we're talking about that jail. They're looking to climb over the barbed wire fence. The dog wants to do that. He's just gotta, they want to help them make their own choices. Artem, when you're when you go into clients' homes and they're struggling with the walk or behavior on the walk, in your experience, where are most of those clients, where are the dogs walking with the clients, and how are the dogs feeling while they're walking? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Again, most of the dogs, they are excited, moving forward, trying to make that leash, how to say, move faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. By dragging the human.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, they're feeling competitive. They want to move.
Yeah. And all intentions and attention is there on the environment.
Yeah. Oh,
not with human. Mm-hmm. Is there. And interesting thing, most of those dogs following their humans as a shadow at home.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as it goes about the walk, they...
Yep. Yeah. And where are they walking, Artem? Like
in front, mostly in front.
Yeah.
And and as I was saying, in way more fast, they at least they trying. In more 1 to 3. In most cases, dogs also are trying to walk faster than humans. This is other reason why they pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Because brain operates everything way faster than a human doing that, just trying to enjoy the walk.
Yeah. There's one of my, like whenever people find me or they talk to you, most of the time they go to like Brandon's YouTube page and they kind of don't know where to start. And I always tell them, this is the best video. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. I want it to have 10,000 views by the end of the week. If you type in Brandon Fouché, Critter Crusaders, he talks exactly about that. And the way he puts it, it's the heart body-mind connection. When the dog sees something, their heart starts to race, and then their body wants to create action. And that's why we get this problem. And you can see why the leash is that problem. And you can see why not being able to go experience it, have a consequence, then be able to make the choice of whether they want to do it again can cause this continuous problem because they're not actually able to do it. So, and it's like we're talking about, they're out in the world and the dog is having all of these thoughts and that's elevating their heart rate. And then their body wants to go solve that stress. What does that smell like? I want to go over there. Why can't I? And then you can see why it becomes so frustrating. And that is, to me, the clearest explanation, because then he also talks about it within dog training and some other other situations where that exact pattern of the mind, heart, and body can keep exacerbating that problem if you don't understand. um, and that's why the dog wants to be in front. And if they're um, I'd heard somebody say that before, like, dogs are like an autistic 4-year-old. They have to be, they don't generalize well. And if your dog is out in front trying to process this world, most humans struggle to process this world. So they are not equipped to live the way we are. They're going to run out into the street. They're going to eat things that they're not supposed to eat. So if your dog is living that way, we have to look at, in these previous episodes, why is my dog feeling so bold to go out and make these choices when he doesn't know what's around that corner? He doesn't know what a car means. So go ahead.
And another thing, it's about how they naturally should learn about environment that they live in. And we will not go to the forest, just will go to the streets. Homeless dogs, 24/7, they processing information. And most of the pet dogs seeing that outside world 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours per day. So they have almost zero information about it. Did you get what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
Like the amount of time that they have to become familiar with all of that is so small and again unnatural.
And that's why social is, taking your dog to a puppy class and leading obedience isn't going to help him understand his world better. Socializing is the best thing he can do. Walk up to the wrong dog, go meet a person, go smell a bush, go have experiences. And that is what, like when you talked about with Yasan, like
Yeah.
he talked about when dogs aren't able to, or wolves aren't able to use their nervous system when they're younger, they struggle with self-control their whole life.
Yeah, and also another thing, if wolf cubs being grown in a poor environment, they actually not able to act in a real environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So while they were puppies, if they didn't have a lot of things in the environment like rocks, trees, different type of things which looks the same as in natural conditions, if they don't have that like flat yard, that's all.
Yeah.
So those wolves will be not able to go to the woods and live there.
Yeah. Before we move forward, I just want to, if anybody's tuning in late, Artem and I have like a little question that we're going to ask at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't mind just putting, where do you live? Where are you tuning in from? For two reasons. One, we want to create a network. Maybe you're going to meet somebody, that both of you live in Oregon together. Maybe, you're traveling to Wisconsin and then now you say, oh man, I'm going to Wisconsin. Let's meet up. So we want to really create this community that's thinking the same, and a safe place where people can, talk about these ideas. And then also, just want to know where everybody's tuning in from because we have an idea.
Do we
So
have any comments right now?
we do. We have a lot. Let's keep going first, and then because I we
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah. Just asking.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, we do. People are tuning in, Artem, for you mostly because you drop these wisdom bombs. I'm okay with that. I'm okay being the sidekick. So you had said a lot of the dogs, the owners that are struggling, the dogs are walking in front. And one of the things Brandon had said to me, in front means I'm in charge, next to me means I'm competing, behind me means I'm submissive. And that's the thing I think people don't understand. When your dog is walking in front of you, they're processing the information faster. They're making choices where to go. They're pulling you. They're setting the speed. A lot of times, and by I mean setting the speed, if you're ever walking and your dog cuts in front of you to smell a bush and you stop, that doesn't happen in the animal kingdom. I watch at daycare when a dog walks up to a bowl and another dog backs off. So if your dog cuts you off to smell a bush while you're walking behind him and you stop, you're telling him, you control my personal space. So that's also why these other things are happening. Next to me, and this is, and whether it's, I'm not big on the terms because it just, people recycle it, but heel is a competitive position. We are walking through the environment together. No, you don't know how to feel. You don't know how to act. So where's the best place for you to be is behind me. If you have a dog with behavior problems, you should be behind me because I need to take care of the things in the front. I have to tell you how to feel. So even if your dog is walking next to you could be continuing to have your same problem. And a lot of people are. My dog knows how to heel, and they keep pulling and telling me their dog knows how. Or, he walks in front of me sometimes, but a lot of times he's next to me. Then that's why you sometimes have problems and sometimes don't have problems. And some of the other things I'm looking for when the people are walking, Artem, I want to know, like we said, where's the dog's tail? So much of what people focus on is the physical. He's sitting, he's downing. But then when you have a
Let me add one thing. And all of those three positions that you mentioned, it's not about physically being there in front, healing, or
yeah,
being in a back. It's all about why they are there.
yeah,
Do they feel that way
yes,
to be in front or
yeah,
somewhere in the middle competing with you, or do they choose to be in a following mode?
yeah,
And it's not about putting them physically there
yep,
with the leash, foot, or
yep,
anything else. It's about
no,
making that feel.
yep, no, absolutely. Um, and it always surprises me, and I know you get the same thing when you start to teach a dog how the environment can make the way they feel, how far behind you they will walk. I mean, I sometimes, when you get a dog that feels the way you need them to feel, where they're finally like, holy shit, nobody's ever made me feel like this. This is amazing. You mean you'll take care of everything? I always tell clients, if I gave you the same pay and you had to be the CEO of the company or you had to work in the mailroom, same pay, which would you take? And everybody says, I'll work in the mailroom. Nobody wants the responsibility. Who wants to drive the ship? Not many people, and not many dogs are able to drive the ship. So let's take that stress off their plate and let them be where they should be, which is being back of the pack followers. So
Yeah,
so it's when you create the environment, you will see a dog that is finally like, and they will walk farther and farther. And as Sadhguru says, when you have respect for the earth, you walk very lightly. And you will absolutely see a very different dog in the way they walk. They're not pouncing around, they're taking every step thoughtfully. And they're looking around enjoying themselves, but they're also focusing on you because you're their safety. Something else you wanted to add? When you point at me, I know I got to shut up.
most dogs born to be followers.
Yes.
It's not like,
And that's okay.
yeah. It's not how to say it. It's like, again, going to the nature, how it works. If mother dog have 10 puppies, not all of them alpha dogs.
Yeah.
maybe one or few, maybe nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
most of them happen to be in a following position,
Yeah.
not physically, mentally. I mean,
Yeah. It was there. Gary Vaynerchuk has something he said. Everybody wants to be a number one. He said, "Do you know how much the number two person at Facebook made? Do you know how much the number 20 person at Facebook made? There is nothing wrong with not being number one. You can still have a lot of success. You can still have a lot of fulfillment. So, thinking our dogs are, made to be these alphas, or a lot of people think that their dog is the alpha. It's usually not true. Very, very rarely.
yeah,
So,
and let's jump into it a little bit. They can feel bold and dominant, but they are not alpha.
yeah. Oh, yes.
In
Yes.
in relationship, they can feel more dominant, more bold than humans or other dogs, but they are not alpha dogs
Absolutely. Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so just real quick, it's kind of out of order now, but I just wanted to, partly what we were talking about for me is, when we're talking about the next two and all of these things, a lot of people I find focus on how long they walk their dogs, thinking that's
Mm-hmm.
important. And I focus more on how the dog feels when I walk my dogs. So if I walk for 20 minutes, for most people, that's more exhausting than when they take their dog for a 3-hour hike because the dogs are crazy and they're running around and they're just being, you know. So when I'm talking about on leash. If the dog feels the way you need them to feel, then they're using their brain a lot. That's much more exhausting than pulling you around the neighborhood for 2 hours. So I think there's a lot of people who are working harder than they need to because they're saying, "Oh, I have to walk my dog for 2 hours. He's so energetic." And my usual response to that is because they're not thinking. The reason why your dog is moving around so much is because they're not thinking. And there's a big piece of that. For me, is don't focus on the miles, focus on the feeling. Like I was starting to say this earlier. Look at your dogs. Anytime you want to focus in on something, what do? Right? We
Yeah.
squint to try to see something farther because it helps our vision. We move forward. We do things with our ears to try to get more responses out of the environment. If your dog is walking around with a wrinkled forehead, ears up, and a tail up, then let's not focus on their body while they're in place position. Let's not focus on their body when they're in a sit or a down stay. Let's look at what they look like while they're walking and saying, what does that mean? Because your dog's tail being straight up and stiff means something. That's not an accident. He's not just saying, oh, I feel like walking with my tail up today. I just want to stretch it out. It tells you how they feel. While they're looking, what do they feel? We talked about this in one of the episodes about the predatory sequence. The first step of the predatory sequence is orientation to movement. So, what's important? Sight, wrinkled forehead. So if your dog has a wrinkled forehead and he's using his eyes on his walk, you have an animal that you're helping hunt. You're taking him around and he's hunting in the neighborhood. And if you're struggling with behavior problems, a predator, not a good mindset to be in. So anything else to add there? You good, Artem? Good. Uh,
Yeah.
so one of the questions we had got from one of our faithful, wonderful, unbelievably kind and generous souls, Shoba, who lives in Spain. Hi, Shoba. Say hi, Artem.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Um,
Shaba.
so one of the things she does is she works in an amazing sanctuary and rescue in Spain. And let's face it, they have a lot of dogs. And she has asked me before. One of the things they have that's similar to us, Artem, which is fascinating, is they don't seclude the dogs. Like when they get new dogs or a dog has maybe a behavior problem that they're working on, they do have a big kennel. But all the dogs, like from the videos I've seen, when she opens the door, all the dogs are loose. They're all together. They're all understand each other. All the disputes have been settled, as they say in people's court, have been settled. So she had asked me once about doing group walks and pack walks, and I wanted to just kind of get your feeling on that, Artem, because we both run similar situations where we do daycare off leash situations first, and then supplement with walks. And I just was just curious, kind of your mindset on the group walks and how people can, because it is a need. I mean, if you can walk 5 dogs at once, it's definitely helpful, but it's not helpful for every dog.
Yeah.
Maybe where they are right now. So I don't know if you just have anything to share there.
Yeah, you just said it.
Okay.
So before doing that, our goal is to figure out if that dog, certain dog, able to do this, or will it benefit from it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's actually easy to check. Go with that dog one-on-one for the walk.
Mm-hmm.
See how that dog feels.
Yeah.
Like actually, I have a husky right now. That husky came yesterday for 2 days, never been at my place. He's just like that. And it's actually become harder for me to walk few dogs if I have him, because I should manipulate him more.
Mm-hmm. So having the individual relationship, is the place to start. And,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and having the dogs understand each other is important. If one dog bumps into another dog, if somebody does like that, can all lead to a problem when we're confined on leash. This is the frustration.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't move. I can't make choices. Why is that dog doing that? I don't know why he's so close to me.
Again, it's not unnatural situation to deal with that.
Yeah.
If it will go in that way.
Yeah. So we figured we would share some things at the end here that can help people that understand their dogs and the communication issue that we're having. And one of the things you had said, Artem, was walking your dog either on a long line and or off leash in a fenced in area. So I don't know if you want to just jump in and start chit chatting about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And the benefits, that kind of stuff. What should they see?
Regularly, what I see, dogs who pulling on a leash, like really pulling, most of those dogs don't have off leash time at all, because people think, oh, he cannot behave on leash, so how can I let him be off leash? And as we said it before, leashes for those dogs represent high emotional state, arousal, and competitive component, physical competitive component. And this is something universal that people can try. One thing is go somewhere to the fence area, try to be with your dog when that dog off leash. You can leave leash on the dog and the dog will be dragging it.
Very important.
And keep moving. And you will see immediately why you have problems on leash if that dog don't give a shit about you as soon as you drop that leash. That's why you have problems. It's relationships. And also then you should figure out what's happening at home, because at the home situation is also where you are communicating with your dog when he's off leash, like a natural way. So yeah, keep moving. If he's running away, you still have that leash and fence. You can at least run after the dog, drag that leash and start moving by holding the leash. And when dog become more calm again, you can drop it and keep moving. Or either you can use long leash, like 20 meters. Yeah, no, not 20, 10 meters, like 30 feet, yeah?
Yeah.
It will help for the dog, and you should also move because you will be moving together, and this is how dogs migrate
Yeah.
to the areas they move. Uh, it, as I see it, that can help reduce stress on a leash. So I am on leash, but I am not restricted most of the times. And if you keep moving, it actually can be zero restriction for the dog on that long leash.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed how dog feeling. Same situation, a little bit more length and different feelings. Now I can sniff this. Now I can go here because I needed few meters more.
Yeah.
and never had that opportunity. And things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to add something about it?
No, I think that's perfect. I mean, I definitely, you know, a lot of people will say to me, "Well, I don't know what's going to happen." Well, shit, you didn't know what was going to happen when you first started driving either, but you cared enough, so you figured it out. And it's the same thing with your dog. What people are feeling is fear, frustration, anxiety. They don't know what's going to happen. Well, that's fine. But you just then use all of these lessons that we've talked about. Put a muzzle on your dog. Put a long leash on your dog. Put 5 leashes on your dog. Bring 3 friends. Whatever it is that you need to get this at least to try it, so that you can actually see. There's one of my buddies in Canada, Peter. He had said that to me once. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, and I'm like, well, I don't know either. But that's why we got to do it. And you know what? Peter's the kind of guy where he was like, oh shit, well yeah, that's true. So let me just go do it. And then next thing you know, he's in the dog park. His dog is acting fine. His dog's playing with dogs, but he didn't know. But what Peter didn't do is he didn't let fear stop him from understanding. He didn't say, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm not going to do it, which is what a lot of people do. So, you know, we're not saying put your dog in a situation, unclip the leash and see what happens. Be smart about it. Say like, okay, go ahead.
And of course, for the first and second time, I guess it should be area where no other dogs.
Yes.
Because you want to develop something between you and your dog.
Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to see what happens. If you turn left and your dog says, hey, where are you going? And goes, that's a good sign.
And, And a long leash actually helps for the dog to see you as another dog. You can still move away from your dog, but you have that physical connection, and it's for you to make you feel safe. And dog seeing you moving away and choosing to, if the dog choosing to follow, this is where a miracle happens.
Yeah.
But you still have that connection, physical connection, which make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a short leash, it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like human is always around.
Yeah.
Not separated.
Yeah. One of the other things we were kind of suggesting is the routine for the walk. You know, reducing and understanding how excitement before the walk contributes to what's happening on the walk.
And actually, it's number one thing.
Yeah. So if
people should do.
When I'm going when I'm going to take a walk, I just grab my leashes, and the dogs come to me, and I put the leashes on, and we go. I don't ask them if they want to take a walk. They're already watching me because they know that I'm their access to things. I'm their safety. And they're saying like, oh, what's going on? You know, and not in the separation anxiety kind of, you know, like the anxiety of it, but you know, if we're out in the backyard and I start to walk around the side of the house, they're looking like, hey, where's he going? Then they see the leashes and they come over. I'm not adding anything to it. They know the leashes are great in itself because, oh man, we're going out and I get to do things, smell and, you know, see things and use my brain. So, you know, we have to understand how a lot of times we process excitement as joy. And so when we ask our dogs, do you want to take a walk? And then they run to the door and jump and bark, we enjoy that. They're not there at that moment, they're feeling neurotic. So we have to, because then a lot of times what people will then do is discipline them or try to discipline them or dominate them. They say, calm down, but you're the one that just created that. So we get these up and downs that kind of happen. So, um, if the dog is barking and whining and pulling and already trying to get around you to get outside the door, these all are signs that the walk, when you start moving forward, is just going to get more and more intense. And that's a good place to understand that, again, to go back to these, because in that moment, like when we talk about Artem, we focus so much on it's a lifestyle. It's not just one thing. It's not that I tell my dog no that he doesn't do this, or it's not that I put my dog into this so he does that. Even my dogs right now. I'm staying at my aunt's house in Tahoe. They're in the bedroom back there, and there's people walking in and out. My aunt's having play practice. There's dogs here, and they just it's their lifestyle. So it's not just 5 minutes training in the backyard 3 times a day. It's every single moment that you're sharing with your dogs. They are always listening. They are always watching. They are 24/7 video cameras, always processing. And they live in hierarchy. So they're trying to figure out, what does this mean to me? What's going on right now? So look at those pieces as you're getting ready for the walk. What does the leash mean? Those are very, very important. And it doesn't mean you have to right then take care of it. There's a good chance that by changing something else in the relationship, that you will see a difference there. And that carries over to the walk. Anything else there? Good?
It just will add a piece. Like if your dog excited before the walk, it means that this is not the first time your dog excited because of you.
Yeah.
Not the first time. In more micro moments, it means that in more micro moments you're also doing the same things. You represent excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why dog pulling.
Yeah.
because the dog is excited.
Yeah.
Too excited.
At the time, I thought about how this kind of fit in, and now I'm going to try to make it fit in, because a lot of people, again, try to stop the problem. And we've talked about this before. People that stop smoking gain weight. People that change this. The stress comes out when you don't deal with the stress head on and really understand why it's happening. Something else, it will come out in other places. And one of my friends, I wrote an article on my website, which I highly recommend. It's called Lessons from a Cowgirl. And it's a dear friend of mine, Alex, who's an amazing horse trainer, also a psychologist in Montana. And when I was watching her train horses one day, Artem, she kept saying this phrase over and over and over. And I didn't understand it, because I'm just sitting back with the dogs and I'm like, watching, and that whole trip in itself. It's just a great article, because it really changed, along with Brandon, that 4 or 5 days I spent at her house changed everything for me, with her dogs never being on leash, totally dealing with consequences. Artem, when she would start her truck, if her dogs weren't in the van, they had to run home. Okay? That's real shit. Okay? You want to talk about your dog paying attention to you? And it wasn't mean. She's just not waiting around for you. She had 6 or 7 cattle dogs with a big Toyota truck, those like little 4 cylinders that was for hay bales in the back. And if your ass wasn't on there, then you had to jog the half a mile home from the barn. Right? And it was, but what she kept saying to the horses was, and I really took me some time to digest this. She kept saying, don't go inside on me. Keep it on the surface. Keep it on the surface. Don't go inside. And I asked her, I said, what does that like really mean to you? And she said, if a dog or a horse suppresses their emotions now, they're going to erupt later. So by stopping their stress right now, this horse, by making them change without understanding how they feel, your ass is going to get kicked off when you're on a cliff and the horse freaks out for a moment. right? When they suppressed everything they were feeling all the time just because you wanted them to change their behavior. And then all of a sudden it's too much and you're on their back and you're on the side of a cliff. Whew. So she always kept saying that to me. Don't go inside. Don't go inside. Keep the feelings on the surface. Let's work through this. And it really just resonated with me. And I think that's, to me, what we're trying to do, not just in this walk, but in the whole journey that we're doing is I don't want the dog to not tell me how they feel. I want you to tell me I'm scared. I want you to tell me I'm a bold asshole and my people taught me how to be this way, right? Because once I understand you, then I know what to do. But until that moment, I saw her just how much she would change for each horse that she was working. And it was always trying to get them to tell her, this is how I feel. Don't hide how you feel. So I highly recommend that article because it definitely, there's other pieces there. There's a lot of fear in me. She's got 6 or 8 cattle dogs and 10 or 12 horses that are all loose, and she's telling me just let your dogs out. And I was like, are you kidding me? No, just let him out. It'll be fine. I was like, right. It was terrifying, but it was nature. Um, so Artem, do you know what time it is? It's time for Artem's final thoughts.
An interesting thing about her, you just
Yeah,
no restriction
exactly.
most of the time, yeah.
None.
And
I
a lot of time have an ability to communicate with environment, not only 1 hour,
all day.
few hours per day, all day long. Natural.
We were at that barn 10 or 12 hours, and not one day, not one time did she say, "Where are my dogs?" Because some were chasing coyotes because it's a job for them. Some are hunting because they need to, right? Some they're keeping pigeons out of the barn. Not one time. Not one time. It was their responsibility to keep track of her, not her responsibility. Where are they at? Is everybody okay? Artem, even her horses didn't have leashes, right? She wasn't walking them around with head halters sometimes, but any of her horses, she was just same thing. Come on, let's go. Get into that. It was, it was like mind-boggling. I have a little trip. She moved like way up north now, so like almost on the border of Canada. So I'm really trying to get there to see her in this trip. But I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work. I have to get back and see my grandma, but it's my biggest priority. But man, like every time I go there, it's just like, oh
Wild thing, yeah.
yeah, it's Gary. You're going to be scared. How do you feel? Because she has got new dogs now and new situations and new horses, and it's fascinating. So anyway, Artem, your final thoughts. How you feeling?
Uh, I'm good.
You're good? You think we did
Yeah.
everything? We covered everything good?
Yeah. I want to tell that phrase that come into my head when we had preparation for that conversation. Like the thing about the walk when the dog is on leash, it's all about, is it just physical connection between one body and another body, just physical connection, or your mind's actually connected?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we need to figure out.
Yeah.
That's all. And when we will figure out the root of the problem, it will be way easier to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And another thing, if we want them to behave fine in unnatural conditions, we should check out, do they have natural conditions to be dogs?
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, we asking something that is for me, is too much.
Yep. Yeah.
That's all.
So one of the things Artem and I have been talking about is possibly doing some live events together. And part of why we wanted you guys to put where you are. If you haven't yet, if you're just tuning in late, if you don't mind putting in the comments where you're tuning in from, because it's, we want to do more. This was, this live show, we put a lot of thought into it. We live it every day, and we want to share this with you. But we really, we understand what it's like to be in person and to really have somebody um, ask those questions live, see how they feel, see where they look. So if that is something that you guys would be interested in, if you don't mind just, putting a simple yes, say yes, that would be something we would love, or like, or, yeah, that sounds okay. Uh, but, it is definitely something we've kind of been putting together, starting to put a curriculum, not a curriculum, but what we would want to talk about in a live event, because you know, Artem and I want to hang out more in person, and we want to share what we have, with you guys. So just let us know. That would be tremendous for us to start meeting some of these amazing people in person and helping more. And kind of what we've been thinking, Artem, is, there's definitely dog owners, which is one situation, other professionals, and then also rescues and shelters. So
Yeah.
it would definitely be, it's for everybody, but I think, some people would some of the curriculum would be a little bit different. Professionals are also helping owners individually and some different things. So anything you wanted to add there?
No.
And this was all Artem's idea, and I'm excited for it, because I personally, I don't want to teach bandaids, and I think this is a lifestyle. As you know, one of my friends is a horse trainer. It says horse training doesn't stop when you hang your bridle up, right? Horse training is a lifestyle. It's the way you treat people. It's the way you treat all animals. It's the way you treat the environment. It's the way you treat yourself. And you know, Artem's I've never met Artem in person. He's one of my dearest friends. And in this, in this last year, Artem, I think both of us have changed a lot, and it's because of
Yeah.
it's each other. Both of us have really, things that we talk about personally, has, you know, continued to make our growth as, and our trying to be the best, most helpful people we can. So, uh, that's it, man. Anything else? You're good?
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Artem.
you.
And thank you, everybody, for
Thank
tuning
you,
in.
everybody. Yeah, for being with us.
We definitely got some yeses, Artem. Hi, Barbara. I already know where you're coming from. Barbara's in Atlanta. Um, and yeah, we'll go through and look at these questions now. It's already an hour, so I don't want to keep anybody anymore. But we'll go through and answer
Mm-hmm.
some of these questions, Artem and I both. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Um, and we
You
appreciate
you want to go through questions now? Yeah.
if you want to. There's a
Yeah. Let's go.
all right,
Let's go.
okay. Um, so Justine says, I have trouble walking my two dogs at the same time. One on one, I can connect with them better, but together they feed off each other's emotions and not mine, and it makes me frustrated.
As for me, if they have those emotions, which one they feed in each other, again, this is not the first time they have that emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when she's walking with them separately, the level of that sync is so low that she's just not recognizing it.
Yeah, yeah, and
An interesting thing, if those dogs ever been outside in a fenced area off leash,
mm-hmm.
maybe they need to explore.
Yeah,
No, not explore.
yeah,
Explore,
explore.
but
Yeah,
yeah, that energy, but in a way uh, that they will behave good.
mm-hmm. And a lot of times, um, it can be tricky when you're diagnosing the situation because sometimes
Yeah.
the dog that you think is the problem isn't. So, like I'm thinking of a client right now, they have a dog who's a little bit shy. So she gets intimidated by the environment and then the bigger dog steps in. So you would think helping the bigger dog is the problem when really it's socializing the younger dog because if the socialization of the younger dog or the smaller dog happened, then the big dog would have nothing to feed off of. So again,
Yeah.
it's a pack. So we're working together as a team. And I'm also then curious, say you're sitting with one dog, does the other dog walk up and push that other dog out of the way and say, hey, no, 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 I'm getting affection now. So, looking at the whole environment and seeing where, obviously without having, you're saying they feed off of each other. I don't know what that means, which is fine. Are they barking together? Whatever that means on the walk. But like Artem says, there's other pieces that are happening in those moments, and that's why again each one is different. So what I do with one dog discipline wise like my three dogs, what I do discipline wise with one dog is very different than the other dogs. So giving each one of those pieces to get to the same place where when I say get over here, they say no problem. I say stop that, they're like, yeah, no problem. So Shoba says thank you. Taking enough
Thank you,
time,
Shola.
essentially move quickly. So she's just saying that she's learning to slow down a little bit. I mean, that's the ultimate thing, man. And these are these stupid sayings that come about, but they're valuable, man. Enjoy the journey. No, none of us are ever going to be dogs. So we are all always just guessing. Always. So just try to do the best you can. And there is going to be no end line. Okay, yeah, no, I know everything. No, I mean, there's still things that pop up daily that I'm like, oh, never realized that before. I never realized how valuable that was, why that was valuable. Why is that valuable to that dog? It's interesting. So, enjoy the journey. I know you're doing that. Kimberly, a different Kimberly, not our Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. Said, I found that when I walk, that when my dog is enjoying the walk, he moves tired after. He's more tired afterwards. So I want our dogs to enjoy the journey. Great. If you don't struggle with behavior problems, then that's beautiful. That's absolutely, and I always think enjoyment is subjective. A lot of people think their dogs are enjoying the walk and they're walking around like, so to some people that's enjoyment. So, to me, like dogs are a rickshaw test. It's, this picture, what does this mean to you? This picture, what does this mean to you? And it's the same picture. So, again, it's, I'm glad. I mean, if the best thing I can tell people is if you're getting results with what you're doing, then keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best part. So if you and your dogs are enjoying your walk, Kimberly, that makes my heart so good. I appreciate that. So keep going. For most of them, it's just time to ever walk on the leash. Oh, it's a new experience. So Shoba's talking about the pack walk. Yeah, so she's just talking about, taking the time. I never start a new dog in a pack walk. I mean, I very rarely say, oh, here's a new dog. The first thing you need to do is walk with a bunch of dogs on leash. It never happens for me. Most of the time for me, 99.9% of the time for me, it's you need to be around other dogs off leash so I can see who you are so that I can teach you how to walk on a leash. Because how I see you interact with your environment is how I'm going to teach you where I want you to walk and how I'm going to make you feel. So I don't know if that's the same for you, Artem.
Yeah.
Okay. My dog is anxious and scared on walks. We'll do all three of these things you spoke about. Paul, walk beside me. Okay, great. A few dots here already. I have a feral girl who has been in my house for 3 years, leash aggressive when walking with my pack, pushy when attention is given to her dogs, to her and the other dogs in the house. Yeah, beautiful. Space in the house. Beautiful. Keep working on that. And then, a leash aggression is just stress. If it always reminds me of that video, Artem, where the two dogs are fighting behind the fence, and then the fence disappears and they fight. How often I see a dog acting a nonsense behind a fence and I pull the fence back and they're like, oh shit. Right? It just happened to, my aunt's dog here is like a 12 or 13-year-old Shih Tzu. And when my dogs were in the backyard when we first got here, he started barking at the fence and I opened the door and what did he do? He ran the other way. Right? So it looked like aggression, but I said, okay, great. You want to come out? Come on, man. And he's like, well, I don't want to go out there. Well, you were, as Brandon says, you were selling wolf tickets, right? Can you write a check that your body can't cash? We'll see. We'll see. Uh, oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, see that. So there you go. So here we go. This is one of the things Kimberly was just saying when she's enjoying her walk. She lives on 5 acres. So she never connected her dog's ability to explore to their good behavior in public. And that's why, Artem, we said in the very beginning, it's so important that we understand the whole story, right? So not everybody has that. So that is perfect to close this on. When we understand the whole context, you can see why she doesn't struggle with that. So it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, Artem, you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for coming today and staying up with us. And thank you, everybody else, for your questions and comments. And
Yeah.
make sure you say, yes, I would love to have a live event with you and Artem. And two, let us know where
Or
you're at.
no.
Or no. We like to know no, too. We're not just looking for positive. Well,
Yeah.
have a wonderful day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.